Hey everybody, I want to talk about a product and platform that I absolutely love and our latest sponsor, Interseller, the prospecting and outreach platform of choice for recruiters and sellers. Whether you're doubling down on business development or recruiting talent, Interseller does all the heavy lifting of finding contact data, automating the email and follow-up process, and syncs all that rich data into 20 plus CRM and ATS platforms. Reach out now and get going on a 2-week free trial and let them know you heard about it from Adam on the podcast today. Check out the link on the website. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast where I bring you the best and the brightest from the world of business, marketing, and entrepreneurship to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today on the podcast is Drixxon Kyser, the creator of the Circulate app and co-founder of Amazing Tech. You guys see how it's spelled. It'll throw you off a little bit. And Circulate is an aggregate of Black-owned businesses that help you find local businesses to support, which can be searched and sorted by category. And Drixxon built the app alongside his sister, Olivia, who is currently a student at Rutgers. And my dude is only 19, and we were joking before, he's actually the third youngest guest on the show, but he's already dealt with his fair share of challenges in the business world, including a controversial situation with Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, for any of you out there who don't know what that is, and we'll get into that later in the program, as much as you want to discuss, as much as you can, as much as you feel like it. Don't worry, no pressure. And I had the pleasure to meet Drixxon this past October in Pittsburgh as part of Breakout, and I knew then I had to have him on the show. And I'm impressed with this young man has been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time, as I'm sure you will be as well. So let's get to it. Drixxon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on, Adam. Good
stuff, man. And a quick little story about how we met. And I think it's really important for folks to understand this. So I've talked about Breakout a bunch. I've had amazing breakers on the show. Michael Farber, Emeka's been on the show. A Perfecto Sanchez I had on recently. And just an incredible amount of folks from Breakout that have really, truly inspired me. These are the real change makers. These are the people out there making a difference in their communities, micro and macro. These are the people that are impacting the lives of others in such a positive way. So let me kind of tell a little bit of the story here when the light bulb went off on my head. And don't worry, I don't talk this much normally, but we were at the Saturday night party at the Zeller's house, and we were upstairs and we were in this little circle. It was late night. Everyone had a couple of drinks. I don't think you've had a couple of drinks because you're under 21, right? And we're upstairs, and Ray Zeller is telling us about his football career. We're telling stories. And Drixxon rolls in, and this dude just starts telling everyone about what he's built and what he's building. And we're all just in complete awe. And I think Ray Zeller goes, "How old are you?" And you're like, "I'm 19." And we're all like, "Oh shit, like this kid is onto something." And for us to see you just owning yourself and your presence and just being totally comfortable with who you are and what you know, it was just awesome, man. And I knew I had to have you on the show, and that's where we are today.
Thank you. I'm glad that, I'm just kind of taken aback. Having those words of, I guess, affirmation, positive words of reinforcement, it makes the work a little bit easier to do.
So why don't you introduce yourself to my audience? Tell us who you are and a little bit of your background story.
Okay, man. So I'm Drixxon Kyser. I guess you could say I'm a tech entrepreneur. I run a startup in downtown Newark, New Jersey. We pronounce it Newark. You might have heard of it as Newark. But locals say Newark. I changed
my. I don't call it Newark. It's Newark. I mean, after spending some time there at Breakout, Newark.
So So I started this tech company back 2020 at the end of my junior year of high school. I'm at the Science Park High School, local school in Newark. And, it was really at the height of the George Floyd protests and that situation. My quote unquote claim to fame revolves around Circulate. And, I was having a conversation with my sister. We were in New York City at the time. And we were like, hey, what would have happened if he was at a Black-owned business instead? Would they still call the cops on him or not? And long story short, we're like, probably not. But that conversation evolved into how easy is it to even find a Black-owned business? So, we did a little case study. I was on the debate team in high school, so I was doing nerdy stuff was kind of fun. And we were not impressed with the current landscape of Black business directories. Most people are just going to try and Google it. And nowadays, Google it's a few ads on there. It's a couple. And if you're not on the front page of Google, chances are you won't be seen. Like, I'm not going to the second page of Google ever.
No.
So everything pretty much started out of a need to help people find Black-owned businesses off of that movement. And then it just evolved into so much more.
Yeah, and let's pause on that for a moment too, because we're talking 2 years ago, so you were 17, at the time. Did you always kind of have that entrepreneurial spirit? I mean, did you have any, have you had any jobs? Did you have it sounds like I sound like such an old fuck, but did you have like a paper route? Did you do any of those things? Did you babysit? Did you do anything where you were, creating opportunities and income for yourself?
Unfortunately not. This is my first job. And it's very interesting because, growing up as a kid, I very smart, very full of myself, very prideful, but I didn't always have everything to show for it. So the whole, I guess, stumbling into entrepreneurship was just a blessing in disguise. It's been a wild ride. But to answer your question, no, I unfortunately did not have a paper route. Closest thing I did have to, well, not even a job, but when you said paper route, it just reminded me of Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, like throwing the paper into the...
Yeah.
That's funny. But let me ask you this. At the age, okay, so hit the rewind button. At the age of 15, what did you want to be when you grew up?
15. Honestly, the age of 15 was probably my hardest year. I think we were homeless at the time. Homeless as a family, there's a difference. Still sucked. But we had just lost the house, just lost pretty much everything. My divorce, and it just wasn't a fun time. So at that specific time of 15, I didn't want to be anything. I was going through the ringer. I was, probably a freshman going on my sophomore year in high school. And it was just like, just a few years ago, I was in middle school, 8th grade. 8th grade was so fun. It was fantastic. And now I just find myself just not having a good time whatsoever. Yeah. And you said 15, so sorry.
So let's talk about that a little bit. And I have a little bit of an inside take because I've spent some time in Newark and I built relationships with business owners in Newark. But inherently, and I'll call it what it is, being a young Black entrepreneur in the inner cities, you got some strikes against you, man. The world is not always in your favor. And thankfully, the tide is turning, thanks to so many initiatives, including Breakout, which is an incredible supporter. But let's talk about some of those early challenges that you've had to overcome that maybe someone who looks like me maybe wouldn't have to at the same age. Let's have some real talk.
Yeah, so for sure. It's very weird for me. I guess you would say the dichotomy between I'm a very smiley person by default. I love telling jokes. I love laughing a lot. And you'll see that a lot on this interview. But on the flip side, as you said, it's a very real world out there. I joke around with my father back and forth about how a lot of times, I'll have a meeting and what most Black entrepreneurs hear at the end of whether it's a pitch or just, trying to get to know somebody, it's thanks for stopping by, Drixxon. We'll be in touch. And you never hear from them again. And just taking, I guess, rejections, the L's. Here's something that's pretty not fun. So, yes, as a Black entrepreneur, I do have a harder time, or everybody knows, he might have a hard time raising money or gaining support from other races. But what we don't typically talk about is that a lot of Black people in these roles, in these higher up positions, they will give me a lot of tough love and use the excuse of, I'm preparing you for the real world. I'm preparing you for the quote unquote white man upstairs. And it's like, yes, you're correct. But at the end of the day, he'll say the same thing. He'll say, hey, thanks for stopping by. And then I don't hear from him ever again. So, got to let things kind of roll off the shoulder.
And let's talk about the flip side of that. Let's talk about all the good things for a moment. And let's give some shout out to the support that not just yourself, but all the young Black entrepreneurs, and not just Black, all the residents in the Newark area are getting in these incredible incubator programs, support from local, state governments and outside funding too. Because I think it's important we show the other side too, that the change is happening real time.
Yeah, for sure. So, I was Breakout actually emailed me. So like we met, Adam and I met through Breakouts. And I hope that you guys know what that is. I assume you would have talked about it.
We'll link them up. Yeah, we talk about Breakout all the time.
Awesome. So the podcast studio I'm in right now was actually my office space, and the office space came from me meeting with you guys at Breakouts. Medina, Ralphie, Jonathan, Kelly, the whole team. They're
big
fantastic.
shout out, Medina and Ralphie, my boys.
Yes. So Breakout, yeah, they
love them.
Yeah, they were just looking for different entrepreneurs around Newark, inner city, put a spotlight on it. They came across my page, the work I was doing, and then they just emailed me. And I sat on that email for a few weeks because it was too good to be true.
Weeks.
So it's
weeks,
maybe even a few months.
You should learn that's an opportunity. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth, man.
Yes. Jay had reached out to me. I had no idea who she was or what any of this was at the time. But it was pretty much just a free gift falling out of the sky, because nowadays people are a lot more conscious with the way in which I guess we interact with underserved communities.
Yeah, and it's tremendous. And one of the big eye-opening moments for me, one of my favorite moments, and were you part of Breakout in Newark as well? I don't recall. One of the biggest aha moments for me was the Saturday night event. We had a dinner, and then afterwards we went to not that co-working space, but we went to another one in town, and we got to meet some incredible entrepreneurs and hear their stories and sit down with them and just be open to innovation and ideas and ultimately just connecting and breaking bread and just having conversations with folks. And that's really what it's all about. Hey, everybody. First, I'd like to thank you all for spending time with me and my guest on the podcast. This show is my canvas to showcase amazing people from the world of recruiting, entrepreneurship, and leadership and unpack their career journeys for everyone to learn from. But this show is also a business generator for me, as well as creating thought leadership and endless amazing content. And I've taken what I've learned in the past 3 years and over 200 recorded and 100 live shows and distilled it down into a digital playbook that I call the Pause Course. Now you could learn how I build, manage, and produce the podcast and use it to drive real business development and relationships. Today, I'm sharing all of my secrets behind the podcast, and you can get it all at thepausecourse.com. This course is for anyone, whether you're starting out or an advanced podcaster, you're using it for B2B, B2C. It's filled with all of my insights, learnings, tips, tricks, and templates. So get it now at thepausecourse.com and learn all my secrets. Thanks. All right, man. So I need to ask you about this. I mean, you're still, relatively young and you're growing in your career. Why'd you choose to work with your sister? I mean, some people say never work with family, and other people say, listen, working with your family, they know you better than yourself and the best trust factor there. But what's it like? Talk to us about what it's like working with your sister, Olivia.
It's pretty fun. It's fun as we have the same sense of humor. But in terms of work, yes. I remember when we first started the company, almost every single night, the door was slamming, whether I was slamming it, whether she was slamming it, whether my father was slamming it. Front door, just arguments galore, and arguments over dumb stuff, trying to be perfectionist. Half the reason why I guess you could say I founded the company with my sister is because I was too young. I felt like I was 17. I was in high school, right. So I felt like I was too young to really be taken seriously. And the other half is really, and I'll, you hear me talk about this a lot, is when you have somebody you can constantly talk to, somebody that inspires you and allows you, or I guess, and talk to about the idea and the idea inspires you both, then that gives you the fuel, keep on pushing. I think one of the guys from Y Combinator said it best, and his name is escaping me right now. But he essentially said, being an entrepreneur is like getting punched in the face every single day. So 100%. To have somebody, a co-founder that gets punched in the face with you, it makes it a little bit better, a little bit easier.
Yeah, I love it, man. Do me one favor, just move a little closer to the computer microphone on there, so we just get a little bit better quality on that. And would you recommend working with family? I mean, what's your take?
Yes, working with family, as long as you prioritize communication over everything and you are able to take emotions out of it, which is a pretty big ask, and it's a super big ask, actually. So yeah, emotions out of it. And then B, to understand that when arguments happen, you cannot let it sit, within the same day. Like if you need, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, cool off, sure. But as you said, you got to squash it. You can't just let a week go by without you guys getting work done.
So I'm a big believer in the how, but I'm also a big believer in the why. And correct me on the chronological order here. What came first, Be Heard or Circulate? And let's talk about your why behind them.
Okay. So the concept and idea of Circulate came first. So, Black Business Directory, cool. But in terms of programming, we released Be Heard first. I was developing both of the apps at the same time, and Be Heard was just a little bit more fun to work on. So we launched that first.
And let's talk about actually you did. You talked about that a little bit earlier, the why behind both of them. What was one of those early lessons learned, as we like to say, an early lesson learned the hard way? What was one of those early lessons that you learned the hard way, whether it be from the development side, from the entrepreneurship business side?
A lot of times, or most times, perfectionism gets in the way. Wow. Okay. So we will tell ourselves, okay, this is the plan, and we'll, game plan everything out. But then we put too much on our plate, too much food on our plates. So I had to understand that, look, even if I'm only giving what I believe is 20 or 30, 40, 50% effort, and it's not perfect, it's not all that I want it to be, just the fact that you're consistently doing it is enough. I would rather, or now I know today that it's better to put in 2 hours every single day as opposed to putting in 12 hours for 2 days and then you burn yourself out and then 2 weeks go by.
That's some pretty good advice. So let's dig into the app a little bit, and I want to talk about Circulate. Is it hard to find, vet, and approve Black businesses? Like, what's so hard about it?
Yeah, one of the things that we saw in other directories was outdated businesses, outdated pictures, or just ugly pictures, to be honest with you. And then, businesses that aren't exactly on top of their stuff. So part of the core philosophy of Circulate is to have Black businesses that are a little bit more, it's the premier Black business. The same way when you order from Amazon, nice reviews means, okay, this product is more than likely going to be good. Amazon backs it, #1 rated, trusted, and then of course the shipping and handling is the cherry on top. So to foster a relationship between these Black businesses that rewards them for being good businesses, and then giving the app, giving the consumers a community tab of reviews, kind of like Yelp, that allow them to kind of vet these businesses themselves along with us doing.
And what qualifies, just so my audience is aware, what qualifies as ownership of a Black business? Is it more than 50%? What if you and I own a business? Who owns it?
Oh, yeah. As long as, honestly, yeah. So you have, as long as, 50% of the team, I guess, is Black, you could have that. Honestly, if you identify as a Black business, you could be a Black business. If you're not Black at all, and it's like a white guy, white photo on there, but he's identifying as one, I do
not, for the record, I do not identify as a Black business owner for anyone out there.
Yeah, but I can't, I don't know if it's I'll let the consumers decide. And if it's just like overwhelming reviews, then I guess, we could have a conversation. I don't like gatekeeping. I'm not a big fan
that's good. Cool. So let's talk about something controversial here, as much as you're open and willing to. Let's talk about the P. Diddy situation. Take us back to that day when you find out about that. Like, what was your reaction? Man. Like, what went through your head? And you could feel free to use expletives here, man.
Yeah, it was effing gut wrenching. I think I was on the game at the time. I was taking a break. I was gaming. Call came in from my father actually, and he was like, "Yo, you're done." He was like, "Have you checked the news? Have you did this? You did that approach?" And I was like, "No, like, what happened?" And I was getting mad at him because he wouldn't tell me. And he was like, "Bro, you just check the news," and then send me a link. And of course, I saw P. Diddy, and it was rough. It was like, we're dead in the water. How am I going to, let's say I wanted to raise venture capital, raise investment, raise angel, raise anything, even come out in front of the people and say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing, Circulate." We were Circulate the app, or just, Circulates. And then when P. Diddy announced it in May of 2021, he was making a Black business directory called Shop Circulate. So yes, for those of you that don't know, it was the same exact name, same moniker, same area, same lane. So it would have made things incredibly confusing for people that potentially might have wanted to support us or him.
Where do you think it came from? Was it purely organic? I mean, where did that idea come across his desk?
Honestly, I don't think, Diddy himself did not,
No.
he wasn't, I doubt it. But I do know that when the CEO reached out to me, Khadija, cool person, love her, what they're trying to do. She was like, first thing she said to us was, "We're so sorry. We should have reached out to you guys earlier." Kind of implying that they'd seen us in the past, but didn't think that we'd be a competitor or really an issue. So, the whole circulate the black dollar concept and ideology has been circulating in the community for the past few years. So it's
The name, the name
not,
and concept itself to that point is not unique to your, but what you were doing, what they were doing with it. So they might not necessarily have stolen it, but what did it feel like when she called you? Did you feel like shit? She's like talking down to me. This is over. Like she just kind of like patting me on the head.
yeah, that's rough. The real of it, I like being as neutral as possible, but the real of it is they wanted to, I guess, quote unquote, little bro me, and just like, hey, we're so happy to see you. We're so glad you're here. We love you. Love this, what you're doing. As like we're, family reunion. And when that happens, people tend to, I guess, lullaby you into the poison or into a death trap. So, a few of the things that they had offered was like, throw a little money my way, we'll fly you out here, meet P. Diddy, get some advisory, just kind of do it like that. And it's like, you're not really taking me seriously. If I was a 46-year-old man, would you still be offering to, advise me and mentorship opportunities? It's like, So that was pretty much an issue. And I had a hard time with juggling these smiles because, naturally I like having a good time.
Yeah, right.
And then on some days I was just barefaced, like
what a hard lesson to learn. But I'm sure you are too, looking back on it now. Like, it was a hard lesson to learn, but it taught you a lot. Let's talk about the response video, man. What went through your head on that response video, and did you question putting it out there?
Yeah. I think my father is the one that actually convinced us to do a response video so fast. I wasn't in the mood to really do anything, and you could kind of see it on my face, see it in my eyes. Like I was pretty peed off.
Yep, I watched.
It's interesting, self-censoring, but I was pissed off. And writing the script of it and the teleprompt, getting everything set up. I think I did it in a few takes. Like it didn't take a long time. And once it started going, I guess, viral, I don't know what hit first, whether it was Instagram or TikTok, but it was, going from wow, this is the worst day of my life to wow, this video is going viral. It's gaining some traction, and P. Diddy, we might get paid.
Right, like think about how do you reverse engineer that? How do we take this whole situation with P. Diddy and flip that shit on its head and use it to our advantage?
Yeah, like I thought, I was calling my mom, like, Mom, this is it. We made it.
We're on Diddy's radar. Here we go.
We're on his radar. This is picking up traction. I'll have, local, DJ Little Man commented, local New York celebrity, awesome guy. He's like, hey, reach out to me. This is terrible. Eventually the mayor brought me to his office. It was interesting. It was very interesting.
And what was a big takeaway from that whole situation as you continue to build your current businesses and maybe future businesses? What's that big early takeaway? Well, first and foremost, let's pause here, man. You have had such an incredible opportunity at such a young age to experience more stuff in the business world and have this critical foundation. You are insanely set up for success, but you also have to be mindful to not let it all get to your head, because you know that there's so much more to learn. And then when you layer on life experiences and relationships and maybe one day building, a family and from that point, but you really are in an advantageous situation. What scares you these days, Drix? If I might call you that.
Yeah, for sure. What scares me? I don't know how to answer that. I've made a lot of sacrifices naturally. My days pretty much consist of me interacting and dealing with people that are twice my age. What scares me is that maybe burnout, maybe not seeing progress as fast as I wanted to, or just running out of time. I'm the sole developer. I'm also the guy that does all the interviews, the spokesperson. I do all the meetings. Like it's a lot of hats to wear, and all entrepreneurs kind of face this. And I think that a good way to avoid burnout is to just keep the whole keeping inspired. The day that I'm not inspired anymore is a scary day for me. That's what scares me. when I run out of inspiration. That thing in our hearts when you're interviewing people, when you're thinking about starting a podcast, doing a podcast, having people on, have your old boss Gary Vee on, when that gets you motivated, amped up, ready to go. If I don't have that, then it gets scary.
Who motivates you? Who are the people in your life, near, far? People you may not even met, the people out there, those icons. Who inspires you on a daily basis?
Wow. Well, okay. On easy answer is actually Gary Vee. I'm a huge fan because you already know his way of going about life is a little bit different when it comes to motivational speakers. But I think it's a cop-out answer to say my community inspires me, but honestly, it really is. I see Black people as a group of people, like just a group. Any other group, you have a group of basketball players, a group of people that love pets, just a group of people that can do so much better. And our livelihoods, the way in which we deal with ourselves, can just be on a completely different level. I see us being a merchant class. I see us being able to offer our services and just solve a lot of problems through technology. And at, I guess, the peak of all that stuff is I see maybe I want the little kids growing up, and it's such a cop-out answer in my opinion, like, oh, I love the kids. But when I did Breakout the first time, Breakout North, you remember Grown Folks, the farmers? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you were in that set. Awesome. So Grown Folks, Black farmers. I almost cried at that session.
That was one of my favorite moments of the whole weekend. Learning about what a food desert was. Me, a middle-aged white dude in suburban Long Island. I have no idea what the concept of a food desert was. And when they explained it and they showed us, that was for me, man. That was.
Yes, interesting work, life-changing work, and then to see familiar faces, that representation. And it's like, it's weird because you don't, representation, I guess, for representation, just until you actually witness it, feel it, it's weird how it sweeps over you. Like, of course, there can be a Black farmer, but to actually see one, to hear their story, then you start to see yourself in them, and you start to, like, it just makes you feel feelings you've never felt before. So if I can inspire the next generation, the next breed of, young kids like me to be a good role model, to be this, I like wearing ties and stuff, because it's nice to be nice. That's the best way to put it.
It is nice to be nice. So let's talk about what's next on the horizon for you. What are your thoughts on college education? Are you just sticking down the entrepreneurship route? I mean, what's working for you?
Okay. So I am in college. I'm a sophomore. I'm taking this current semester off because all these meetings and breakouts and business is booming. But I think the college route, I think above everything else, having a plan that's just paramount. So plans, a soft backup plan. I know some people aren't fans of backup plans, but I needed to have just a soft, college, philosophy major. After philosophy and I graduate, then it'll be law school, and then so on and so forth. Now I don't want to count my eggs before they hatch, but if I become the next, Zuckerberg dropped out, if I can do that, I'll probably do that. Maybe. But I do, college, it's social, it's meeting people, certain connections. So to have the best of both worlds, figure out how to juggle things, it's imperative.
I love it, man. And you know what? You're inspiring. And I think I look at you and I'm inspired. That's why I knew I had to have you on the show. I'm like, you inspired me. And I think it's something that anybody at any age, like, age should not be a factor if someone inspires you or not. It should be what they're doing, what their message and who they are. And you certainly represent that. It's been absolutely incredible to get to know you. I hope that we continue to build our relationship. We'll talk offline. While we're talking, I got all these crazy ideas. I'm like, who could I introduce him to? Who in my network could help this dude out? I'm like, shit, do I got to introduce this guy to Gary Vee now? Right? Like, all those type of things are going on in my head. But let me ask you this question. And it's great to get it from the perspective of somebody where you are in your life and what you've accomplished so far. But Drixxon, what is the single greatest piece of advice that you've ever received that you take action on every day?
Oof. Okay. Here, this is going to be another cop-out answer, but one time Gary Vee, either he said it himself or I think my father or somebody interpreted it, and it was basically, it doesn't matter. Gary Vee, motivational speakers, anybody, business people can give you all the answers. They will lay out the blueprints. blueprint to success, everything you need. And they'll do that because they know that at the end of the day, you're still just not going to do it. You're just not. You're not going to follow through. So when I heard that, it was like, wow. It's not, a lot of times we as aspiring entrepreneurs, we have this boogeyman in the closet, oh, it's too hard here, too hard there. This doesn't make sense. But even if somebody were to map out every single detail, every single roadblock, every single this, every single that, you're still not going to do it. Most people, at least, aren't going to do it. So hearing that, it resonated with me. And I don't know if that's the single greatest piece, but it did, when you said it. That's what I thought of.
Dreams are nothing unless you execute on them, right? Ideas are nothing. They're just ideas until you actually put it into, and that's for me is like what drives me too, is actioning my ideas and taking chances and being okay with losing and failing, which I had such a hard time early on in my life until I had a big freaking loss. And that really opened up my third eye of accountability and self-awareness. And sometimes that's what it takes. So Drixxon, last but not least, you've had many challenges at even such a young age, personally, growing up, homeless, separated parents, working your ass off, having all these barriers in your way, these hands in your faces, having freaking Diddy get in your way, all that type of shit. And you pushed through and you persevered and you freaking harnessed that inner tenacity to drive you forward. And on the flip side of that, I look at you and I see such extreme gratitude, and you're humble and you're smart and you have so much ahead of you, and it's freaking awesome, man. What keeps you focused? What is your compass in life? Drixxon Kyser, what is your North Star?
My North Star is I constantly live in the future. Even in this podcast episode today, tomorrow, I'm in the future. I'm honestly a few years into the future. What I want to see for my own life, what I want to see for my family, and then what I want to see for the community. I guess you could, I do my best to be steps ahead because that's like the true inspiration. The true inspiration. I want to see my work have an impact. First time going to Breakout, Breakout is, the feeling is intense. It's something that you've never really felt before. And people have a hard time even explaining what it is. So if I can, I want that. There are few times in this world, the gift of music, few things in this world that really speak to us, resonate with us, experiences. Driving out to the middle of the desert in Arizona and just looking at the stars and just, life is things that really make life worth living. So I live in the future and I live for the ability to live and not just survive, not just exist. I want to live. And then, of course, be able to spread that with as many people as possible. Truly, it's, fun. Well, I don't know, not everybody, but sharing is caring. I love being able to share. When I find out something new, something cool, to be able to share with somebody. I'm sure your podcasting journey, you shared that love with the people that you love.
You have it, man. You have those pieces, and it's so exciting to see what you're building in this attitude and mindset that you have. And I know that our paths were meant to cross for a reason, to be in each other's lives, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. Drixxon, where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
Awesome. So I'm on all the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Drixxon Kyser, DRIXXON.
Double X.
Double X. And then, of course, our company page, we are on Instagram and TikTok, and I guess Facebook too, but I'm young, at Circulate the app. So Circulate, the word Circulate, the app. I think we're at 12K on Instagram and 25 on TikTok.
Love it.
Slow growth, steady growth. We're having a good time while doing it.
Awesome, man. Hang with me for a second as I sign off. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope everyone listening finds some inspiration in what this guy is doing here. I don't even want to call you a kid and insult you, man. You're doing awesome work, a great role model for so many, and it's just exciting. And I'm pretty confident that in about, I'm going to call it 3 or 4 years, I'm going to look back at this and people are going to be like, shit, you had Drixxon Kyser on your show when he was 19? It's going to be like, shit, you had Bezos on? Did you have Zuckerberg on when he was 19? I believe it and I see it, and I'm freaking proud of you, man. And thank you so much for joining me. Everyone listening, I hope you got a lot out of this episode. Sharing means caring. Spread the word. you love the show, leave a review or rating. It goes a long way. You know where to find out more on the social media channels at thepodcast.com. Remember, take care of each other, look out for one another, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search The Podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.